Start the recording. You're all set. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll give everyone a few minutes to join, and then we will get started. We'll give them one more minute, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Yeah, a few more people. Okay. All right, guys. Hello, my name is Chris Williams. I'm the VP of Programming with AMA Detroit, and today we have another webinar here for you to shed some light and give you some more insight that hopefully you can apply in your daily life or in your place of employment. We have Ben Holland, who's going to discuss unlocking the power of customer experience data and how to leverage that in driving your marketing strategy. So Ben is actually a very, very seasoned marketing professional. He has 16 years experience in entrepreneurship, digital and traditional marketing. Throughout his career, he's held various positions: owner, contractor, department head, specializing in strategy, budgeting, and also leading successful campaigns. He has earned several awards, including Marketer of the Year. He's had the privilege of being a part of many national PR opportunities, and he's also had the privilege of being elected president of AMA. So we have a very, very, like I said, a seasoned professional to talk about this topic. Data continues to be a big, big thing with marketing, how we use it, what's safe, what's not safe, and so on. So I think there's no shortage of information out there to get a better handle on not only how to get it, but also how to use it. I appreciate you guys coming in this afternoon and spending your, maybe your lunch break with us. If you aren't familiar with AMA, I highly encourage you all to visit our website, amadetroit.org. It's going to give you more information on us, becoming a member, future events, and so on. I've been here for about 3 years and really enjoy it. You get the access to events like this with Ben and also other events that are more exclusive to our members. And it's really helped me grow as a marketer. So I encourage you all to check out the website. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. Ben is going to get started here shortly. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section or in the chat. Ben will try to answer those as you send them out. We will reserve a little time at the end to go through those questions or any questions that come up last minute or any that we weren't able to get to at the end. But also feel free to use the chat to kind of chat amongst yourselves. If there's something that maybe doesn't make sense, I'll be happy to pass it over to Ben as he's going through. Without further ado, Ben, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and everybody joining me today. I'm looking forward to doing this talk. Again, I'm Ben Holland. First thing I want to say is I'm a big proponent of the AMA. I was a board member in the Phoenix chapter for 5 years, and I moved to Connecticut and I was a board member here. And I was lucky enough to be president. And the people I met, what I learned, the networking, and just the time I spent was really valuable. And if you're on the fence thinking about joining the AMA, I highly encourage you to do it. It's well worth the money, the time, and the effort. I learned a lot, and I wouldn't be where I am in my career without the AMA. So I echo all the sentiments he stated. I really think you should think about joining and, helping out as much as you can, because being on the board is a big help too, and you learn a lot and you meet a lot of good people. But I'm not here to wax poetically about the AMA the entire time. I'm here to talk about customer experience data and using it for your marketing. So I'm big on actionable items, right? I'm trying to give you things that you can go implement right now. What's in it for you? If you go through with these 4 different tactics I talk about, you're going to be able to increase your revenue. You're going to understand your competitive landscape, and it's going to give your marketing some clear direction. So that's what's in it for you with this talk. I have one other free thing for you guys. It's a little chart I put together. We are a research vendor, so I put together this comparison chart. It's a free download for you. Go ahead, check it out. It's our little gift to you for attending today. Also, please ask questions throughout the chat. I'm going to kind of answer the questions in the middle of the presentation, not wait to the end type of person. So please feel free to interject. I got the question screen right here, and I will be providing the slides at the end. So don't feel like you got to write everything down. We will be sending those over at the culmination of the event. So the agenda for today is we're going to talk about what the data you need, right? To do customer marketing based off of customer experience data, you need the data. So I'll talk about how you gather that data, what it looks like. And then I'm going to talk about 4 different tactics you can implement with this data. And then I know a lot of people here may not have a big customer experience program or a campaign or any of it at all. That's not a big deal. I'll talk about what to do if you don't have any of that data, how you can still implement some of these tactics, even though you don't have customer experience data. And then my favorite part at the end is the bonus tips, where I just, talk about 10, 15 things that I've learned throughout the years and give you guys little tidbits that you can take home with you right away that don't really pertain to this conversation, but I think it's just really good knowledge I like to share. So the first thing we'll talk about is about me. He did a great job with the introduction, so I'll just have the screen up for a second and move past it. I'm a big proponent of the AMA. I was on the board. I won Market of the Year in Phoenix. And I had a pest control company that had the privilege of being on the front page of the New York Times, and it's on like Dirty Jobs and some other pretty big TV shows for that. My company, Satric Solutions, where I lead the marketing, we do customer experience and employee engagement consulting. We'll basically run your survey, your interview, your customer advisory board programs for you. I'm not here to sell, but that's what we do. Our call to action today, if you will, is a cup of coffee, right? Hit this QR code, sign up for a free consultation. The first 3 people get the free consultation. To go pretty quick, so I encourage you to snag that now if you can. But we'll talk to you about anything you want. No big deal. It's free. So let's get started. CX data, right? Customer experience data. That's what we're looking for here. So the tools that we use to implement this, and you can use to implement this, are the Net Promoter Score, a relationship customer experience survey. So that's like your CSAT. A sales win-loss interview, customer churn interviews, and customer advisory boards. Now, some of this lingo you may not understand or you may not be as familiar with, so I'm going to go ahead and describe each one. So the Net Promoter Score is that real basic, how likely are you to recommend this to a friend or family member question. It's on a scale from 0 to 10. 9s and 10s are promoters. That's important for this talk. You want to remember that. And passives are 7 and 8s, and anything that's a 6 or lower is a detractor. If you want to learn more about this, you can check out this ebook we did about Net Promoter Scores. It'll tell you in great detail. I'm not going to dive deep into it, but here's a place for you to go learn more if you'd like to. Customer relationship survey, it just asks general questions about your business, and you can also come up with like individualized questions for your particular business that you're really wondering about. So it's usually a quicker survey, 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes. You got 10, 15 questions in there, and Here I've listed some of the most common questions that you could ask anybody at any company, but you do want to tailor a couple of them specifically for yours and what you really care about. We have a great blog about what it is if you want to learn more. Sales win-loss interview. So these I'm a big fan of, especially if you're an agency. So that's when you either win a deal or you lose a deal. You sit down with the person and you ask them why. What decisions you made for this, what went into those decisions. Is it product features, the pricing? You know, there's a whole list of things here that could be the reason why. So we like to figure out why they did that and then give you the information. And then you can use that to, you know, kind of tailor your sales decks, your sales cycle, all the things you need to do when you're trying to land that account. This really gives you the insights you need to get the leg up on the competition. A churn interview is kind of the opposite. It's when you lose an account, you ask them, hey, why? It's also like an exit interview with an employee. So that's what those do. Those are extremely beneficial. And then a customer advisory board, you know, it's similar to a focus group, but not quite it, where you get your best customers, you bring them into a room and you really talk to them and ask them, you know, where would you like to go? Let us run these plans by you and get input from your main customers so you know that you're headed in the right direction to make them happy. So those are the tools that we'll be talking about today. Here's a quick little tip for you. I like to put these up in our presentations. You know, if you see this little social share icon in the corner, that means I'm going to take a sip of water and allow you guys to screenshot this if you want, put it out on your LinkedIn, Twitter. Be sure to tag me and follow me on LinkedIn. At the bottom of the slide, you can see my handle, but this is a little tip for you. And I'm going to have a few of these tips throughout the presentation, so please share. All right. Okay, so the first thing you want to, the first tactic, and I think the easiest tactic to do is data-centric campaigns. And what that is taking your data from your program and then just using it in ads, right? So this is something we did. We asked our client base, you know, how likely are you to renew the engagement? We got a 4.7 average on that. That's on a scale of 1 to 5. So that's about 94% of our clients are planning to renew. So what I did is I made a little LinkedIn campaign with the carousel ads, and I use this data as the metric, as the thing that catches your eye. And you have a few of them, you know, if you get a few data points that are really interesting and you think is, you know, trust building, you can do that. That's what we have here. Another thing you can do, this is a client of ours where we did a net promoter program for them, and they thought they had really great customer service, but they wanted to measure it and be sure. So we went ahead and did that program for them, and they were at 86, a plus 86, which is extremely great. It's awesome. So they put it on a blog post and they put it on their website and they use it in their marketing and their sales pitch, right? Hey, we have great customer service and this is the proof for it. So those are some examples on how you can use a data-centric campaign. And this is how you do it. You use the relationship customer experience survey that I talked earlier and the net promoter score. We like to do these biannually, you know, twice a year. You can do it more frequently if you have a larger customer base and you have a good process in place, but, you know, at a minimum, I would do it twice a year. A lot of people have rolling NPS programs and CSATs programs, so they're continuously getting data, which is really good because you have an ear to you have a finger on the pulse of your customer. What we're going to do is look for high percentages of positive feedback in the survey questions. Like I showed you, it's a 4.7 out of 5. That's really high. That's something I'm proud of. That's something I want to shoot from the mountaintops. And that's what we're going to use as our tactic in advertising and weaving these insights into all marketing efforts. So if you had a really high NPS score, if you had a really high retention rate, that's something you could put in your marketing emails, your newsletters. You could have it on your sales pitch decks. You could put it in the About Us on your website. You could even have it as a little like icon on the homepage of your website. You know, these are all little things that can build trust a little subliminally that you can just use data. Quick and easy, see the score, put it on there. It's really simple and easy to do that. So here's a summary slide about this tactic. Feel free to take a screenshot about it and share it. If you have any questions about using data-centric campaigns, please feel free to throw it in the Q&A. See one chat over here. Okay. Perfect. Next. All right, leveraging promoters. All right, you might be, hey, what's a promoter? Right. Well, that's that 9 or 10 on the NPS score, on the NPS scale there. But you might not always be able to tell that right away. So I like to show this as an example. You know, what movie do you think are these people's favorite? Right. I bet these people all love Spider-Man. Right. This is the essence of a promoter. Right. All these people love that product so much that they dress up as it and they're out there. And I bet they'd be more willing to check out other Marvel movies, right? Maybe Captain America might be interested in them because they're already promoting one product. that, Marvel has. So this is what, an over-the-top example of what a promoter would look like. This is what we like to do with promoters. I kind of like to squeeze this lemon, right? I like to get the most I can out of promoters because they have the best things to say about you, and they're also the most willing to do that. So I like to ask them for reviews. This is a review we got from one of our customers, a 5-star review on G2, which is a platform that we have decided is the best one for reviews for us. Our industry uses those very heavily, and we asked them to leave a review there. And then I use this review. I have it on a testimonial on a website. I put it in our email marketing, and I'll even throw it up on LinkedIn here or there. If I have a dry week and I need something, I can just snag a review, make a nice little slide and put it up on LinkedIn. Another thing you can do with them is case studies. I love case studies, but they take a whole lot of work and back and forth. So you really should do it with somebody who's invested in your relationship, that is a promoter, and they're probably going to have the best things to say about you. So we love doing case studies. They're very good. They're helpful to the sales cycle. Sales teams love these sorts of things. So it's good to put them together, and that's where you should start. If you're wondering who you should do a case study with, do it with the people who give you a 9 or 10 on your NPS survey. Another example I love is we're all familiar with traditional marketing, and we're probably all familiar with account-based marketing. But the accounts that I want to focus on for ABM are the ones that are high promoters, right? 10s. I'm going to look for those people that are 10s. Then I'm going to ask them, hey, who else in your company needs our help? Who else can I talk to? Do you know anybody in the industry that might need our help? Those are the people you want to start asking favors to. So how do you do all of this? It's pretty simple. It's a single survey, the Net Promoter Score. It's the one question. Sometimes we'll follow up, with a second question, what can we change? What do you like best? That sort of thing to get a little bit more qualitative data. And you should do these, like I said earlier, semi-annually. Twice a year is a good clip for these, but by all means, you could do it more often than that if you have a large customer base. And what I like to look for here, this one is a little tricky. 9s and 10s are promoters. So if you have a large list of 9s or 10s, which I hope all of you do, right? That's the goal for being a good business. You want to start with people that are giving you the 10s because that's a better score. And if you have a lot of 10s, if you have that great problem, start with the people that you've surveyed before and consistently have given you 10s, right? You want a long history of promoters to go with instead of somebody who might have just jumped from a 6 to a 10. So that's where I would like to start asking people to do these little favors. And these are the favors, they call it advocacy marketing, upsell other products and services to them. Hey, you love Spider-Man, check out Captain Marvel. Ask them for testimonials, ask them for reviews, ask for a case study. I bet you could get reviews, case studies, and testimonials all in one fell swoop if you handle it properly. We also use them as references in sales. Our promoters are the people that are going to speak highly about us to new potential customers. So we're like, hey, can you give us a little recommendation? Can we give somebody your phone number to give you a call to ask, what they think about Satrix? Ask for partners at industry content. If I was going to do a panel or something for, the AMA, I'd probably ask one of our promoters if they'd want to join us, right? We kind of scratch their back because they'd be interested in that sort of thing. We're giving them some awareness. We're giving them some publicity. So I'd start with the people who speak highly of you to do that sort of thing. Again, cross-departmental referrals, asking for introductions, and then beta testers. You have a new product, a new service, and you need people to test it. The people who are going to be the most responsive and I'd say the most kind, or at least provide you the most honest feedback, are going to be your promoters. So here's a little summary slide all about leveraging promoters. Feel free to screenshot it and throw it up on LinkedIn. Again, if you have any questions about this, throw them in the chat. Perfect. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is competitive intelligence. And this is my favorite one of the bunch. He's like, what? All right, so here's a really great example. I do a lot of SEO. I don't know how much you guys do SEO, but there's a lot of link building tools out there. And this is a great example of doing this. Is we got the data and we're just going to put it up here, right? This is the competitive intelligence. Like Ahrefs is favored by everybody we polled. You don't even need to put a spin on it. Just put the poll up there. I love this. And again, over here, they have it higher than SEMrush, which is another great tool. And this is on their landing page. It's a paid ad. I clicked the paid ad and this is what came up. So they're using this very aggressively in their marketing, and it's just a poll and it's competitive intelligence, and they're showing you their intelligence, and it's going to make you want to buy from them because everybody else wants to. This is also, a little sneaky note here. This is a data-centric campaign too, right? Lots of data here. 2 for 1 on that one. Another example I like is Google Bard. So everybody here probably knows about ChatGPT and how Microsoft invested $10 billion into OpenAI so they could use ChatGPT in Bing search, right? And it was really good off the bat, and now it's kind of iffy. But with all this, Google didn't need to run a survey or interview program to get this data. But what they did is they created their own AI search, and it's Bard, right? So they saw the competitive landscape. They could have interviewed people while they're leaving Google search, and they would have seen that it's for this really awesome AI tool. But they knew it, and they went ahead and changed. And they need to, because it's change or die. And if your competitor is doing something better than you're going to lose business to them. So you got to be on top of that. And one of the best ways to do that is with some surveys. This is another one of my favorite examples. Again, it's competitive intelligence. I don't know the details. It could have been with a survey, but in Europe, there's the Duracell bunny. So the Duracell bunny was really, really famous in Europe. They let their trademark lapse in America, or it might have been vice versa. And then Energizer was like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take that trademark and make it an Energizer bunny in the United States. So in Europe, there's the Duracell bunny. And in America, there's the Energizer bunny. And that's a great example of competitive intelligence. They knew that marketing campaign was doing really, really well. They looked into when the trademark would expire, and they jumped on it immediately. So that's a great example of how you can leverage competitive intelligence for your branding. So how do you do this sort of thing? There's a bevy of tools. Most of this is going to be your qualitative data, your sales, win-loss interviews, your churn interviews, and your customer advisory boards. And you're going to collect these things, after a customer leaves. That's when you do a churn. When you win or lose a deal is when you do a sales win-loss interview. And then the customer advisory boards, we like to do those twice a year as well. It's really good to get input from your customers. I think those are really, really valuable. They're a little bit harder, a larger undertaking, but I think they give you the best feedback you could possibly get. And what we do with this data, after we've interviewed everybody, what we're doing is looking for thematic analysis. So we're going in here and looking for common themes over all of the interviews. Some tidbits here or there could be great, but if you're seeing all of your customers saying the same sort of thing, it could be a problem or a really good thing, right? So I like to find out how prospects are finding us. That's something I really enjoy with advertising. If I'm advertising on all social media channels, right, I'm going to want to know which one's doing the best aside from the data I'm getting. And if everybody's finding me on LinkedIn, I'll probably put more money into LinkedIn if those are the prospects that are converting than I would in Facebook or X or Snapchat or any of these other platforms out there, Google Ads. Thematic analysis, I look for brand perception. What do you think of our brand? I know what I think of our brand, and I know what I'm trying to portray and put out there. But is that being perceived, and is that resonating with our audience? Our market positioning, are we the low cost product or are we the high cost product? Where are we seen as a position in the market for our industry? Again, that goes hand in hand with the value. Are we valuable enough? Do we charge too much? Do we charge too little? And then pricing, again, that goes right in with the value. Maybe the value's there, but the price is too high. Or maybe you have a right price, but you're not establishing the value well enough, and you're not giving clear enough examples in your marketing or setting expectations properly. So you can look through these themes and see what people are saying in regards to these topics, and then kind of build your strategy around it. I also like figuring out what our unique value proposition is. Is it our really high NPS score? Is it the really cool product we have? Because whatever they really care about is what I'm going to go to market with, right? That's what I'm going to put front and center because it's our unique value proposition. And then finally, why are we winning with our competitors? If I can understand why we're beating our competition, I'm going to double down on that and do more of it. And the tactics you can do is invest more in the channels that the prospects are finding you. Lean in to what the customers are finding positive. You're going to get a lot of positive stuff from these types of programs. Like, people are going to say really, really great things about you. And if you find something in there that you didn't know was a positive, you might be able to market that. You can implement successful competitor tactics, just like Energizer did. And then you can create campaigns around your unique value propositions, right? You got a great NPS score, 94% of your customers are coming back. Those are some campaigns you can run. Throw some money at them, see if they convert. If they do, spend more on them. So here's a summary slide for competitive intelligence. Does anybody have any questions about that? Perfect. All right, next we're going to talk about the coolest one is finding target personas, right? We all know what personas are. They look like this. You have a random name with an avatar, and this is what they're interested in. And what you can do with this data is really figure out, what personas really convert and what you should really market towards. I like to use this in advertising. This is a little screenshot of some LinkedIn advertising. And if I understand my persona, if I know what kind of company they're at, the vertical, their job experience, and I like titles a lot. I like to advertise to titles on LinkedIn. You know, if I know the specific title in which my target persona is, I can advertise just to them. You know, we target chief customer officers a lot here at Satrix. So I run a ton of campaigns on LinkedIn where I'm highlighting our content and I'm just targeting all the chief customer officers. And there's not a lot of them out there. So it's really cost effective when I can figure out the specific title that we want to focus on. So how do you do this? You're going to use maybe all of your tools, but ones that give you really substantial data, right? So your customer relationship surveys, your win-loss interviews, your churn interviews. Talked about when to collect that data already. And what you're going to do is look for segment-based trends and positive feedback, right? So if I've got a lot of positive feedback, I'm going to look into that feedback and see, hey, is there any commonality in the verticals, the company size, the type, right? Do you really do well with SaaS? Are you really good with service companies? You know, what type of company do you do well with? The product offerings and maybe the location. Maybe you do really well on the East Coast, but not so well on the West Coast, right? And you can learn these sort of nuances about your company and where you will do well in your marketing if you look into the positive feedback and kind of slice and dice it. And then you can also look at the individuals. Instead of just the companies, look at the individuals. And that's when you can get really targeted in your social media advertising. You're looking for the role, the job title, how long have they been there, you know, the department they're in. And what I like to do is advertise it in places where you can easily find your segments, and then use these segments when you're thinking, kind of empathize with them and do your advertising around them and think what they would want when you're doing your advertising. All right, here's my summary slide for finding target personas. Does anybody have questions on this topic?
Then I have a quick question. With
Yeah, let's hear it.
personas, I know certain small businesses, sometimes they don't have the resources to find those personas, you know, to get to work with those. What are some ways that you can, you know, begin by, you know, finding those personas? And like I said, maybe you're a smaller business and you don't have the resources to either pay, you know, a large agency or platform to get those.
Yep.
Or you're just not familiar with it. How would you recommend getting those personas?
That's such a great question. I have a couple slides about that. You're jumping the shark a little bit and I love it, right? So that lets me know that my talk is going well. All of these tactics, right? You have to have the CX data, but if you don't have the data, how do you do these sorts of things, right? Don't worry, you can find target personas in other ways without having customer experience data. And you can also, instead of leveraging your promoters, you can leverage your fans, is what I call them. They're not technically promoters because they haven't taken the quiz, but they're fans. And I'll dive a lot deeper into that in a couple of slides here. That's a really phenomenal question. Thank you. All right. So what if there's, oh my gosh, look at that segue. Look at that segue. Look at that. Perfect. I didn't even tell him to do that. I didn't even cue that up. All right. What if there's no data, right? You got a bone in the bowl and you can't get to it. All right. So it's everywhere. Feedback is everywhere. You don't need to have a formal customer experience, customer success program to get feedback. It's everywhere you look. If you're a business, there's people probably writing reviews about you, right? Go read the reviews. I bet you could ask your sales team what's going on. The sales team, the account team, the customer success team, they're all going to know what's going on with your customers and be able to provide you feedback. Maybe not in the large scale you would get with the survey program where you can like slice and dice it based on segments and verticals, but they'll give you a lot of nuances and really good feedback. Your CRM, you know, Salesforce or whatever CRM you use, is going to have a lot of customer data. You can go in there, check your emails. Sometimes your correspondence with clients have a lot of nuggets in there. And again, social media, you know, LinkedIn's what we use here, but if you have a social media platform that you're really on, look at the people that are commenting, how they're messaging you, and you can get feedback in that manner. And what you can do with this feedback is you can leverage fans, right? I like to look at reviews, especially Yelp. Like I'm sure all of you guys have a little thorn in your side from Yelp, right? It's where people go to complain. But sometimes complaints are warranted and you can learn a lot from complaints. I used to work at an aquarium in Scottsdale and we launched a little prematurely and we didn't have all of our signage and we got just really a lot of bad reviews on Yelp because there wasn't enough signage. You know what we did immediately after we saw that feedback? We made that the top priority. So that's kind of how you can leverage reviews. As a specific example, your retention data, you know, if somebody's retaining for a very long time, they're probably pretty happy with you. They're not leaving. So you could ask them to do these little actions. And these are the same actions you would do with promoters. Okay. And your customer facing teams are going to also know who the favorite customers are and who'd be most likely to allow you to ask for testimonials and reviews and be open to that sort of thing. So same strategy as promoters. You're just looking for fans. You're just finding them a little bit different way. And then target personas, right? This is the question he just asked. Where can you use find your target persona? So sales data, right? You got a CRM. Hopefully you have some data points about who your customer is, like how big their company is, what their title is. Are they a decision maker or the researcher? Those are two personas I really find to be important when I'm doing marketing. I want to know who is making the decision and creating content for them. And also, not every time a decision maker is actually going out there and like gathering the vendors or the information. They have a lower level person doing that. And that's what I call the researcher, right? So I like to look at the personas in those two angles and go from there with what I'm going to do. And then customer lifetime value, right? Your customers that are spending the most with you are probably personas you want to target because they're going to also spend money with you. Does that answer your question? Do you have any other, you want to dive deeper on this? I'd love to.
Yeah, that answers my question. That was perfect. I think that look at platforms and how a lot of people use those, and I always think, when I'm working with bigger companies, yeah, it's okay to throw thousands of dollars at that, but the mom and pop shop, they may not have access to it. So I like the examples you gave. Those they seem really accessible, which I think is probably the best thing for people who aren't overly familiar with it.
And it happens organically. It's not something you got to go spend money on a program. This is stuff that just falls into. People are going to give you reviews, good or bad. If you're a business, you're going to get reviews. So this is stuff that you can just start off and do right away. All right. So those are the tactics I'm talking about. If you want to learn more about these tactics and stuff, definitely check out our blog. But I don't want to just be pushing our blog. There's a couple organizations out there that are just like the AMA, but for customer experience. It's the CX Network and the CXPA. Tons of valuable information on there if you want to learn more about customer experience. Again, I got my bonus round coming up. Don't leave. But if you want to contact us, the first 3 inquiries get a free consultation. And this is my favorite part. Please don't leave because you're going to get a lot out of this. Other than corgis running around and having fun, you're going to learn all about the tips that I have when it comes to marketing. So I'm going to go over my tech stack. This is kind of what I use. I'm a one-man marketing machine here over at Satrix, and we use HubSpot. I like HubSpot a lot. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's very usable, very user-friendly. You don't need to have a lot of experience with HubSpot, and they have a great support system that you can learn very quickly. So if you're an entry-level company, smaller mom and pop shop, and you're thinking about a CRM, I like HubSpot. I could be sold on other ones, but this is the one I tend to lean towards just because it's really easy to use and their support is so great. Our website is HubSpot based, but I'm not the biggest fan of the HubSpot editor. I like to use WordPress. WordPress, I think, is something like 47% of the websites on the internet are WordPress now. It's really, really popular, and they're staying up with all these core Web Vital updates that Google's doing with the search algorithm. So I like WordPress. It's easy to add stuff. You can drag and drop. It's a very user-friendly platform, especially if you're wearing many hats and you just need to throw a blog up on the site. It's really easy when you use WordPress. I love Google Analytics 4 for my, my website analytics. They got rid of Universal Analytics, which I was a big fan of. And Analytics 4 has a lot of cool new features. And they're really more user-based than session-based. And you kind of got to look at it at a different lens if you're switching from the old platform to the new platform. But I'm a big fan of it. And I think the data that it provides you is really great. Knowing where people are going on your website and what they're doing there is invaluable. For user experience, I like Hotjar. This measures heat mapping, click mapping. It'll show you where people go on your website. So you can really understand what is working and what's not working on your website. I'm a big fan of Hotjar for heat mapping. There's other competitors, but Hotjar is free until you hit like 2,000 views a month. So if you are a smaller business that doesn't get a lot of traffic, you can throw Hotjar on there for free. If you have a lot of tools, right, your website's got a lot of tools on here and you want to integrate with a different one, but you can't find a plugin, or you need to port your HubSpot data into some other platform. Zapier is a really, really, really cool tool. It's like a user, it's like a point and click WYSIWYG for connecting APIs. So I don't know how to code APIs, right? I don't know JavaScript. I don't know how to call a line, but I can connect an API with our website or my form to launch a whole bunch of other stuff with Zapier. It's a really great automation tool that connects APIs. I had a pest control company in Phoenix where we would catch scorpions at night with black lights. And I ran the whole business with Google Suite and Zapier. And all I had was forms. My company, my staff would fill out a form, and then it would fire off a report email. It would schedule the next appointment. It would send them reminders. It would do a whole bunch of back end stuff automatically for me. It saved me hours and hours. So I really love Zapier. Now, if you got all these tools on your website, it might get a little bit slow, right? And having a fast website is really important nowadays. So this is my favorite tool for increasing your page speed. It's from Google, straight from the horse's mouth, and they literally tell you what you need to do to get faster. So, I mean, this is the best tool out there, and it's free. I love it. If you have a website, you might be worried about how much traffic you're getting, what terms are you ranking for? Do I have like a manual penalty? Why am I not ranking all of a sudden? Google Search Console. If you have a website, you should be looking at Google Search Console at least once a month. It's completely free, and this is how you can get the actual query data of who's searching for your website and coming to your website. So this is the best place to get your search terms. Any SEO data you need is going to be in Search Console for free. You don't need like an Ahrefs or a SEMrush because it'll be in here. What I like to do, though, is put all of this data from analytics, from Google Search Console, and make a report with Looker Studio. So this is basically Power BI, but for free. So if you're familiar with building reports in Power BI, this is basically a data visualization tool that Google makes. So it ties into all your Google stuff. And pro tip, I like to take Zapier and dump some data into a Google sheet and then use Looker Studio to build out reports about the stuff that I had dumped into the Google sheet. So like form information or something like that would be a good example. So this is a really great tool for free. Chat GPT, I love it. I like to use it to make things more eloquent. Whenever I write an email, I'll write it like how I normally would, and then I'll throw it in Chat GPT and say, hey, make this sound better. And then that's what I'll run with. So it really makes me sound smarter than I am and write a lot better. So I'm a big fan of that. But it doesn't always have the best grammar. So I love Grammarly. I can't spell or have proper grammar at all. I'm a science person, not a writing person. So I use Grammarly all day, every day, check everything. It's a really great tool. Again, it's free. Canva is what I use for design. I like it because being a one-man person in the marketing, I need to send out stuff to a lot of people, but they have feedback, right? I send it to the sales team, they'll have feedback, and they can just leave it in Canva. It's all in one little thing. It's super easy to use, and it's really friendly. I find it a lot more efficient than like a Photoshop or something. They have a lot of free stuff in there. It's really, really great. Project management. There's tons of project management out there. And I found that Monday.com, if you don't have to track time, is the best one out there. It's really, really user-friendly. And they allow you to add other people into your ecosystem without having to have an account. You can invite guests. Another thing you can do is have a form that people fill out. Like I like to have a creative brief form they fill out, and then it just kicked into tasks. You can have it all automated. So like the whole project just gets spun up from filling one form. All right. The last thing I have for you is team building. I'm sure a lot of people are remote and they use Teams. This is a cool little platform. It's only up for like 8 people at a time, but it's like the old Microsoft games that you can do together. So we use it for team building at our company, and you can play solitaire, Minesweeper. There's even a Boggle type game, and then there's some trivia too. So it's a little fun thing you can do with your team to build a little rapport on a Friday afternoon. The last free thing I got for you, again, here's that vendor search download for you guys. If you want to download it, feel free to hit this QR code. And my last slide, contact us. Please reach out. I'd love to help you. I'd love to talk to you. And if you want to talk CX, that's great. But if you want to just talk marketing, I'm here for that too. So that's all I got for you today. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, we do have one question in the chat
Yeah.
here. Let me go ahead and get to it. It says, how do you feel about AI potentially taking away human experience involved in content and user experience? As a recent marketing degree graduate, I feel as if my job options are verbally as a risk as I look for roles. So it looks like they're just not finding as many roles, and maybe AI has something to do with that.
Yeah, no, I'm scared too, honestly. Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody who sits in a desk should be worried. Like AI, they're trying to replace building houses, with AI, with cement, 3D printing, and then you just throw a program up in there and it just prints the whole house, right? If they can build a house, they can probably do marketing. So I'm a little worried about this too. My advice for you as a fresh marketing graduate is lean into AI, right? Understand it. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about it so I can use it in my role. So I do a podcast every other week, and I've used ChatGPT to take the transcription from it, and then I give them an outline. It's just the questions I ask, and then they take the transcription and write my blog post for me, right? And I've found that ChatGPT is eliminating my need for a copywriter. I worked at another organization. I had 2 copywriters. We were putting out a ton of content. And now I don't even need a copywriter. I use ChatGPT, make a little outline. It'll even make an outline for you. But I like to do SEO research around it, throw it into ChatGPT, put my own 2 cents on there, put Grammarly on it. And then I got a quick blog post that takes maybe an hour or 2 instead of, it could take a couple of days to do that. So I would say leverage it and try to do jobs that AI can't do, like design. AI is doing design right now. It's doing writing right now. Strategy, I don't think it'd be great at strategy, but I could be impressed at some point. So I would say try to focus on things that machines can't do. That would be the key in understanding what the machines do. Don't be scared of AI, embrace it, and try to use it to your advantage and stay ahead of the curve. So when you're applying to these roles and people are asking you about, hey, how would you use AI in this role? You have a really, really good answer and better than everybody else. You have any more questions? I could talk about this longer if you wanted to.
Perfect. I actually had a question. As someone I work with companies often, and I generally start with the personas and kind of shape their strategy based on that. But I like to lean into first party data. And when I bring it up to clients, a lot of times they don't have a CRM system or anything like that. If whether it be an established company or a new company, and they want to make sure that they were, getting, their customer data from the start, what would be maybe 1 or 2 steps that you would, hey, you need to do this, and this is going to kind of set you up on track? Would it be starting just their CRM system, or would you start with just having surveys? What would you start with someone who was trying to make an effort to get more of that data?
So it sounds like your question is 2 parts, with how do I get it started with a CRM, and then how do I get customer experience data, kind of leveraging the CRM, right? Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, you can see it that way. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, perfect. So I was a business owner for 15 years with my pest control business, not big enterprise or anything, right? We're not Terminex, but we did pretty well in our little niche. I used a spreadsheet. So what I started off with, I just like Hamza over here, I just graduated college and I started an LLC that week, and I just put up a website. I wanted to make really cool websites. So I bought like the Dreamweaver book and I read the whole Dreamweaver. I'm dating myself, and I made a Dreamweaver website. And I just put it up there, and then I started getting some phone calls. I did some random SEO stuff that worked, and I was getting a few clients. I was getting a few leads, but I didn't really know what I was doing, right? I had a biology degree, and I was getting a business going. So I just had a regular Google sheet. I don't even know if it was Google at the time. It might have been an Excel sheet. And I just put like the first name, but I knew at the time I should gather, all the data I possibly could. So don't just get the first name and the last name. Try to get like the company size, get the zip code they're in, like all those things I talked about, how you could segment your data. You want to get that from day one. And it's okay to be in a spreadsheet. I had a spreadsheet for my business, and I used Zapier to take the data out of my spreadsheet and run my CRM. I kind of made a hamstrung CRM using Zapier and the Google Suite for $25 a month, as opposed to like investing in something like a HubSpot. So if you want to do it for free, I'd try that route. I'd use a spreadsheet, right? If you're a small business, you don't have a lot of clients. I was maybe 2,000 is what I was dealing with. You can totally handle that sort of thing. It's a little of a nuisance. The bigger you get, the harder it is to find the information. But after that, you can look into smaller CRMs. HubSpot's the one I highlighted. It's great for small, medium-sized businesses. It can be kind of expensive, so there's an investment to it. And I find the automation is really key with that. So if you're going to invest in a CRM, use the tools, okay? Use the emails, right? Use the social media building, use the advertising tools, get the most out of it so you can take advantage of how it frees up your time. Like I love HubSpot because I can create a list, and then I can use that list to target in my ads or exclude in my ads. So if I don't want to target my customers in any of these ads, I'll just throw that list as an exclusion. And that's easy. It's one click, as opposed to having to download it and upload it into LinkedIn and all of that stuff. So that's what I would recommend. HubSpot's a good, small, medium business, going to cost you a few thousand, I think a year. For free spreadsheets, Zapier, you kind of got to figure out Zapier and automate it. And then bigger, if you want to get started big, you have a large business and you're switching over from an antiquated system, Salesforce seems to be the best right now. But there's a lot out there. See what's best for your business. Now, tying this all into customer experience data, right? Now that you have the CRM, most importantly, you have the emails that you need to send to, because that's important. You can't do a program if you don't have a way of contacting your customers. So you get the emails, and you could, simply enough, kind of cringe when we say this sort of thing because we're a third-party vendor with it, but you could do something like SurveyMonkey, right? It'd be easy to ask, how likely are you to recommend this to a friend or family member with SurveyMonkey? And that's a great way to start. They have free platforms, like Survey's got a free tier. There's other survey tools that will allow you to do that sort of thing. Where you really want to lay in a layer of expertise is when you're going for more in-depth questions, right? If you're doing a CSAT survey, you might want to make sure you're not asking leading questions like, oh, is blue your favorite color, right? Instead of what is your favorite color, you're leading with the blue. You don't want biased questions, and interpretation too. Like, you might go into a survey program thinking, hey, I know this is going to be yes to everything, or I think this will be the outcome. And the data is kind of wishy-washy, but you lean towards what your bias is, your preconceived notion. So that's what you want to be careful with, and why you want to use a third-party vendor. But to start, spreadsheet it up until you outgrow that sort of thing. Try HubSpot or some smaller level, small, medium. When you outgrow that, jump into Salesforce or a larger enterprise platform. Get those emails, and do your own program, or hire a vendor to do it for you. But you can get going on a lot of this stuff, pretty bootstrapped if you want to. But I would definitely do some research if you're asking more than just the NPS question, to make sure you're asking good questions. Because the worst thing you can do with any of this is get bad data and make business decisions off of bad data, right? If everybody's favorite color is red, but they answered blue because you led them, and you make everything blue, they're not going to buy it because it's not red. So you want to make sure you have good, valuable data that you're making business decisions on. That was a very long-winded answer.
No, I appreciate that. We have another question here in the Q&A, and it says, what advice do you recommend for when the marketing team wants to interview customers for feedback to help business personas, et cetera, but the company will not allow customer interviews?
Ooh. So I would first, ask why I can't, as a marketer, interview the customer. Why is that veil there? Because, if you're a customer-centric organization, you would want everybody to know what's going on with the customers, especially marketing, right? We're all marketers. We're all here because we care about the customers. So what do you do if they will not allow customer interviews? So I can see that from one stance, because you don't want to, like, let's say you're doing a churn interview, right? Somebody just left. They're probably not going to be very honest or open with the account manager that they just broke up with. They're going to probably sugarcoat things, while a third party would get that honest answer, and they wouldn't be a little, worried about hurting feelings. So that might be an angle you could take with your company. Be like, hey, I know you don't want me to, but this data is really important to me. I'm going to do these 4 tactics I just learned about in this webinar with this data. This is why it's important. If you don't want to interview them, let's have somebody else do it, right? I can't understand why a company would not want to do customer interviews, aside from maybe they don't have enough time, or they're worried about a little bad interaction with it. Does that help? Do you want me to dive deeper on that, anonymous attendee?
Then while they're answering that, I have another question too in regards to surveys. So I like what you said about doing it a couple times a year, doing it 1 or 2 times a year. I've been with organizations where it can be difficult to get feedback. Either people are not replying, which is primarily the issue, or it just becomes them just kind of sending, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Sometimes the information or the feedback isn't always overly useful. Is there tips or anything that you can to give us insight on maybe what you're doing in between sending those surveys that could maybe help you get more feedback?
Yeah, so response rate. So I think that's a huge problem, especially with B2C, getting a good response rate, because it's great to send out a survey and get some data, but if only 5% of respondents are answering it, how valuable is that data? Are the people that are responding just the ones that are upset with you, and all the people that are like you, all the 9s and 10s are just not responding? So you want to have a proper sample size. So don't look at it just as percentages of your whole, but also a number, right? So in science, right, if I'm conducting a biological study, I need at least 30 to be a significant sample. So I would recommend getting at least 30 data points. And then you can also look at like the significance differences, the significant differences between them. And oh my gosh, like there's a 95% accuracy, 99. So you can use a lot of data to understand how accurate and how likely these answers are to be significant, right? So correct is what I'm basically saying. So based on the answers, it might sway. If you have a really, a vast variable data set, you're going to need more. But if everybody's giving you 10s and there's 30 of them, you're probably going to be pretty confident, that sort of thing. Getting more people to actually respond, right? So that answers your how big of a sample size, how to get them to respond. So when we do this, we're a third party, so it's hard for us to get people to respond. If you're doing it in the first party, it's a little bit easier, but I always like to say, hey, shoot them an email, give them a call, make them aware that this is happening. We're going to have a third-party vendor reach out to you and ask you to conduct an interview, or I'm going to reach out to you in a couple of weeks and want to do an interview. Are you open to this? Kind of plant the seed so they're not just blowing off some other survey. Make it seem a little bit important. Some companies will actually do a donation to a charity of your choice. So, hey, you fill out our survey, we're going to give $100 to whatever charity you want. That's a good way to entice people to take your survey. And a quick introduction and enticement, and then always close that loop. Make them know that their survey filling out was important. Say, hey, thank you so much for doing that. We saw you gave us feedback about X, Y, and Z. We love that feedback. It was great. And because of that, we implemented this. What are your thoughts? And then you can ask them for more feedback. And that's how you can get those people from 6s or 7s in the NPS to 9s or 10s. And once they get to 9s or 10s, you've already got a really good engaging conversation and relationship with them. You can ask them for those testimonials, those case studies, those reviews.
I love that idea of like giving them the a heads up, like, hey, this is coming through, and almost building in a way, almost building the anticipation of like, hey, this is, in 3 days or in a week, we're going to be seeing through. Look out for it. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, a lot of people send surveys, I get them all the time. I just delete them, right? I take them now more than ever. But I'm not like going to fill out a Zappos survey for no reason. I like the shoes. You were the cheapest, So that's kind of, you want to make it worth it for them.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few more minutes. Any more questions for Ben while we still have them? Feel free to leave them in the chat or in the Q&A section. Give you guys a couple minutes to send any last minute questions. And also, Ben, he did leave his LinkedIn URL, so feel free to connect with him. And like Ben said, we'll also be sending some slides, or these slides, out to you after today's webinar. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions. So Ben, we will go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you again. We really appreciate your time and all your insight. I think this is very, very helpful. Like I said, this is a topic that I feel like I've been, kind of leaning on a little bit more and trying to get more insight on. So this is right on time for me, and it looks like a few others feel the same. So again, thank you very much. Follow those links in the chat, and you guys have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you attending.